questioned him of the people of the city, when he replied, "Have patience with me for a while, O my sister." And reverently closing the holy book, he laid it up in a satin bag. Then he seated me by his side, and I looked at him, and behold, he was as the moon at its full, fair of face and rare of form, soft-sided and slight, of well-proportioned height, and cheek smoothly bright and diffusing light. In brief, a sweet, a sugar stick, even as saith the poet of the like of him in these couplets. That night the astrologer a scheme of plans drew, and lo, a graceful shape of youth appeared in view. Saturn had stained his locks with Saturnus jet, and spots of nut-brown musk on rosy side-face blue. Mars either cheek with tinct of martial red, shots from eyelid Sagittarius through, towered at Mercury with bright Mercurial wit, bore off the bear what all man's evil glances grew. Amazed to sight the marvel birth, when lo, the moon had full to the earth, and of a truth Allah the Most High had robed him in the raiment of perfect grace, and had purfled and fringed it with the cheek all beauty and loveliness. And of a truth Allah the Most High had robed him in the raiment of perfect grace, and had purfled and fringed it with the cheek all beauty and loveliness, even as the poet saith of such a one, by his eyelid shedding perfume, and his fine slim waist I swear, by the shooting of his shafts barbed, with sorcery passing rare, by the softness of his sides and glances lingering light, and brow of dazzling daytide ray and night within his hair, by his eyebrows which deny to look upon them rest, now bidding, now forbidding, ever dealing joy and care, by the rose that decks his cheek and the myrtle of its moss, bedded in his lips and pearl his smile lays bare, by his graceful bending neck and the curving of his breast, whose polished surface beareth those lovely pair, by his heavy hips that quiver as he pass in his pride, or he rest with that waist which is slim beyond compare, by the satin of his skin, by that fine unsullied sprite, by the beauty that containeth all things bright and debonair, by that ever open hand, by the candor of his tongue, by noble blood and high degree, whereof he soap and air, musk from him borrows muskiness, she loveth to exhale, and all the airs through him perfume the air. The sun, methinks, the broad bright sun, before my love would pale, and sans his splendor would appear a bearing of his nail. I glanced at him with one glance of eyes which cost me 1,000 sighs, and my heart was at once taken captive wise, so I asked him, "O my lord and my love, tell me what whereof I questioned thee." And he answered, "Hearing is obeying. Know, O handmaid of Allah, that this city was the capital of my father, who is the king thou sawest on the throne transfigured by Allah's wrath to a black stone. And the queen thou foundest in the alcove is my mother. They and all the people of the city were magicians, who fire adored in lieu of the omnipotent Lord, and were wont to swear by low and heat and shade and light and the spheres revolving day and night, confidence in her, for that he knew her to be trustworthy and virtuous, and he treated her with ever-increasing kindness, believing her to be of his own belief. So when I was well nigh grown up, my father committed me to her charge, saying, "Take him and educate him and teach him the rules of our faith. Let him have the best instructions, and cease not thy fostering care of him." So she took me and taught me the tenements of Islam with the divine ordinances, of the wuzu ablution and the 5 daily prayers, and she made me learn the Quran by rote, often repeating, "Serve none save Allah Almighty." When I had mastered this much of knowledge, she said to me, "O my son, keep this matter concealed from thy sire, and reveal not to him lest he slay thee." So I hid it from him, and I abode on this wise for a term of days, when the old woman died, and the people of the city redoubled in their impiety and arrogance and the error of their ways. One day, while they were as one, behold, they heard a loud and terrible sound, and a crier crying out with a voice like roaring thunder, so every ear could hear far and near. "O folk of this city, leave ye your fire worshipping and adore Allah, the all-compassionate King." At this, fear and terror fell upon the citizens, and they crowded to my father, he being king of the city, and asked him, "What is this awesome voice we have heard? For it hath confounded us with the excess of its terror." And he answered, "Let not a voice fright you, nor shake your steadfast sprite, nor turn you back from the faith which is right. Their hearts inclined to his words, and they ceased not to worship the fire, and they persisted in rebellion for a full year from the time they heard the first voice. And on the anniversary came a second cry, and a third at the head of the 3rd year. Each year once still they persisted in their malpractices, till one day at break of dawn judgment and the wrath of heaven descended upon them with all suddenness. And by the visitation of Allah, all metamorphosed into black stones, they and their beasts and their cattle, and none was saved, save myself, who at the time was engaged in my devotions. From that day to this, I am in the case thou seest, constant in prayer, and fasting, and reading, and reciting the Quran. But I am indeed grown weary, by reason of my loneliness, having none to bear me company." Then said I to him, for in very sooth he had won my heart, and was the lord of my life and soul, "O youth, wilt thou fare with me to Baghdad city, and visit the ulema, and men learned in the law, and doctors of divinity, and get thee increase of wisdom and understanding and theology, and know that she who standeth in thy presence will be thy handmaid, albeit she be head of her family and mistress over men and eunuchs and servants and slaves. Indeed my life was no life before it fell in with thy youth. I have here a ship laden with merchandise, and in very truth destiny drove me to this city, that I might come to the knowledge of these matters. For it was fated that we should meet, and I ceased not to persuade him, and speak him fair, and use every art, till he consented. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of day, and ceased to say her permitted say. When it was the 18th night, she continued, "It hath reached me, O auspicious King, that the lady ceased not persuading with soft speech the youth to depart with her till he consented and said yes. She slept that masters and slaves who had been seeking for me. When they saw me, they rejoiced and asked what had stayed me, and I told them all I had seen and related to them the story of the young prince and the transformation wherewith the citizens had been justly visited. Hereat all marveled, but when my two sisters, these two girls of Commander of the Faithful, saw me by the side of my young lover, they jealoused me on his account, and were wroth and plotted mischief against me. We awaited a fair wind, and went on board rejoicing and ready to fly for joy by reason of the goods we had gotten. But my own greatest joyance was in the youth, and we waited a while till the wind blew fair for us, and then we set sail and fared forth. Now as we sat talking, my sisters asked me, "And what wilt thou do with this handsome young man?" And I answered, "I purpose to make him my husband." Then I turned to him and said, "O my lord, I have that to propose to thee wherein thou must not cross me, and this is that, when we reach Baghdad, my native city, I offer thee my life as thy